Which of these two layouts are you currently working on? Exactly, they look the same, right? I mean, look at those trendsetters like Google, Apple, Microsoft, even smaller companies, but everyone's trying to copy from them, like Linear. The layout is almost the same. The only difference is in the brand, the way they tell the story. But in terms of the layout, especially in the web, it's becoming the same standardized solution, which is quite good for cutting the costs, making things faster, but not so good for companies if they want to stand out. It's also not so good for junior designers who want to bring something to the table. However, AI can potentially replace their functions because it's becoming easier and easier to produce very standard templates just by using AI. So what can we do to bring something new to the table? I think one of the best approaches is to go back to the fundamentals and try to bring something new from the fundamentals. Because if we think from the historic time frame, digital is quite young. It's only 30 years old, and it's nothing if you compare it with the heritage of thousands of years. And obviously, if we limit ourselves by tech giants and their guidelines, we're not going to come up with something new, and we're not going to bring something to the table. When it comes to the foundations, I think the most important thing is the space and the composition. The second important thing is typography, and the third important thing is color. And I'm talking purely from the visual perspective, not taking into consideration the UX and other aspects. When it comes to color, you can use black and white and still come with something solid. When it comes to typography, you can use only one font, only one weight and size, and still come up with something solid. However, when it comes to the space, if you mess up the space, everything's going to be messed up. So now that I brought your attention to the importance of space, let me walk you through the framework that I have implemented a couple of years ago that has changed my approach to design and the way I think, the way I design, and the way I present. That framework is not developed by me. It's introduced by someone that I think is the best in terms of interpreting some of the classic knowledge in modern digital formats. His name is Sergey Gurov. Today I will take you through my interpretation of those insights and demonstrate a wider range of application scenarios. So take your favorite mug, fill it up with steaming tea or coffee, and let's dive through this fascinating journey together.
Erik Bulatov, a renowned artist from the 20th century, developed a fascinating scheme that describes the relationship between space and the format of the viewport, such as the painting canvas or the screen. Through extensive exploration of a dot placement on canvas, Bulatov made a discovery. Dots closer to the border of the canvas appear more static, while those closer to the center possess greater potential for movement into the depth. Moving a dot closer to the center creates a sense of an invisible force pulling it deeper, while dots near the border seem to be easily attached and appear static. Bulatov further enhanced his scheme by dividing the canvas using the horizon line, a line that naturally captures the human eye's attention.
Now, let's talk about differences between static canvases and interactive screens.
And the difference is huge. Let's take a website as an example. You can see its header section after the first loading of the page, and it can be static. However, to discover the rest of the page, we have to scroll down. So the website has some sort of dual nature. It can be static but also dynamic once we start interacting with it. Take the architecture as an example. You can walk around the building or walk inside and see new details every time you move from one place to another. Now, bringing back the original scheme, we can say that the horizon is defined and static. It's visible, we can calculate the length of it, and we can divide it into zones. And that's the main idea behind the grids. Instead of blindly dividing the page into 12 columns without rationale, grids serve to delineate zones that can be utilized strategically, allowing us to detail those zones as necessary using columns. The vertical, however, is unknown. The length of the page remains unknown, unveiling itself gradually, teasing our curiosity. So the flat space is the horizon, it's attached to the canvas borders and appears static. And the depth is the vertical, it invites into the movement and depth. The depth can be conceptualized as the temporal progression of the video, with the distinction that we lack control over its movement speed. However, the website provides the ability to regulate the pace at which we navigate. Just like videos, we must convey the narrative through dynamic messages that unfold throughout the story. Consider using established narrative structures to enhance your storytelling, such as Aristotle's three-act structure.
Now, in order to put this theory in action, we need to grasp the essence of what we are designing for when it comes to a website. Is it a module-based website? Is it a text-based website? Or is it a mix of both?
The modular pages scanning pattern can be described as search. We are looking for something while scanning the modules and not necessarily knowing what exactly. It can be browsing through Instagram posts, getting inspired on Pinterest, or deciding what shirt to buy on fashion store. In this mode, we are utilizing our peripheral vision while scrolling through the page at quite fast speed and jumping our focal points randomly. The problem with the standard repetitive modules is that this pattern leads to repetitive blindness. To combat this blindness, we can use visual signals that draw attention using different methods such as size, proportion, space, color, or motion. These signals trigger the peripheral vision just like when walking in the forest, we use this vision to quickly detect danger and look at it using focal vision.
So here are some examples you can utilize on your next project.
Norgram Studio is utilizing the same technique when it comes to the modular layout, where they use the different sizes for the tiles. This way they are breaking the monotony of the grid. Now, if you look at the homepage, they are also utilizing the storytelling approach when it comes to the density of the page. So you have less density on the page, then more density, then less density, and then more and more, and then less. So this way they are also not letting you to get bored while you are scrolling down. The Norte Image Studio has this interesting grid where they align images to left and right of the page or to the center, and that's their basic logic when it comes to the modules. Now, for each row they use different amount of images and different sizes. So here they have large 2 images. Now on the second row they use 3 smaller images. On the third row they use 2 medium-sized images, and here they even use 1 image. And they even have this cool small slider just for fun to change the size of the module. When it comes to the modular layout, we don't really want to have a lot of vertical alignments so that it allows the eye to travel from left to right and to explore everything without skipping. Daisy Chain Studio utilizes this very interesting approach where they combine motion, interaction, and the regular grid that really invites you into discovering each of these cards. Burberry uses very subtle differences in the color of the cards, and all the attention goes to the pictures, and those pictures are also different. So that is enough as a trigger for your eyes to travel from left to right. And not always it is necessary to use huge differences between the cards, especially when it comes to e-commerce or the things that you don't want to emphasize too much, but then the image itself is becoming a signal for you to travel, and also these slight differences in the color. On the contrary, the text-based scanning pattern implies focus, attention, and linear movement from A to Z. Everything we read stays in the focal point area. This means we can force the vertical lines to be more powerful. Let everything be held by 1 to 3 vertical imaginary lines. Although you might have 5, 6, 12 column grid, the main alignment is going to happen on these 1 to 3 lines. Now, in order to combat eye strain from long reading, we can add rhythm to the depth of the page by breaking the text with horizons, big titles, or emphasized text. We can also displace the text bit by bit to add more dynamics to the layout. The horizon is attached to the borders, flat space, and work as anchor points. The description text can be fit anywhere in the width of the viewport. However, placing it on the right-hand side has some benefits. First, you can zone your areas into fast reading and slow reading areas. For example, left-hand side can be dedicated to the titles and short descriptions, so that in case you are scrolling through quickly without reading the entire text, you can easily get the structure of the text by merely looking at the left-hand side. Whereas right-hand side can be your slow reading area where you really focus on the detail. These, by the way, can be also applicable to the input fields. Second, Favorsky, one of the teachers of Bulatov, presented this layout notion in his book About Art, About the Book, About Engraving, where he stated that usually the left pages are harder to read because they seem to pull back rather than deeper into the book. Therefore, it is desirable to use the left side for quick scanning, such as headings or images. The right side is ideal for a dive deep into the details. However, in the digital, we are setting new standards and there are no strict rules to the zoning of the canvas.
Now let's examine a few designs featuring the scheme we discussed previously. On this another website, also designed by Bemnigo, the horizon is visible, it's very strong, goes from left to right, and the description text is attached to that horizon, and it's very firm because of its being attached to the anchor point, which is the horizon. Now we can also see that the website has 3 main power bearing lines, although there are 1, 2, 3, 4 main columns, but then the main ones are 3 and the primary one is being the one in the middle. And now as I scroll through the website, I will see that middle line being maintained throughout the website. And I also can see the secondary lines here and here that also support that structure. Norgram Studio uses the same approach. You start from the left, you go to the right, and then you go from top to bottom. So the vector goes from left to right and from top to bottom. And you create the horizon by this line. And here we have a depth, which is the text which goes into the depth to the bottom. And the text is quite narrow, which allows you to have it in your focal point of view. And now this is your first level, and then we break this level by introducing the image. Now the second horizon is the title with this description, and again from left to right, then we go from top to bottom, again from left to right, from top to bottom. This can be applied even to large-scale websites. Not only does it help for editorial websites, example of which is Saudi Airlines, where they utilize fast and slow lane areas. So you have a fast lane where you quickly scan the titles and what's required from your site, and it's also sticky to help you navigate. And now you see the contact details. So if you want to quickly look through the page, it's very easy on the left hand side. And then if you want to start filling in your data, you have your slow lane area where you can really focus and narrow down. And there you have it, my friends. Today's journey has taken us through the understanding of core principles of the space and then application of those principles in modular and text-based layouts. I hope you can apply these principles and techniques in your next project. Feel free to share your learnings in the comments below. Thank you so much. See you next time.